Commander Vextal had served in the Crethean Dominion fleet for 20 cycles, and in all that time, he had never seen anything quite this stupid. His 6 arms moved across the control panels of his command chair, pulling up scan after scan, hoping the sensors were malfunctioning. They weren't. A single ship. One lone vessel had just crossed into the Ember Sector like it owned the place. The Ember Sector wasn't just any stretch of space. 3 major powers claimed it. The Cretheans, the VRWNN Collective, and the Velos Empire all had fleets patrolling these borders. Ships didn't travel here alone. Ever. Even civilian transports hired entire security convoys just to pass through safely. The sector had seen more skirmishes in the past decade than most war zones. And yet here was this ship, cruising through like it was on a pleasure voyage. "Sir, we're picking up its identification beacon now," his tactical officer chirped, her voice crackling with nervousness. She was young, only 3 cycles in service, and this was probably the strangest thing she'd encountered. "Well?" Vextal demanded, his mandibles clicking with impatience. It's humans, sir." Vextal felt his body go still. Humans. Of course. The galaxy's newest members, the species that barely knew how to leave their own star system 30 years ago. They had wandered into galactic space with their primitive ships and wide-eyed wonder, asking questions like children. Most established powers had dismissed them as irrelevant, too young and too weak to matter in the grand scheme of things. The communications panel lit up. The human ship was responding to their automated hail. Vextal gestured for his communications officer to put it through. "This is Captain Emily Grant of the UHN Indomitable." A female voice came through, clear and calm. "Requesting safe passage through this sector. We're just passing through, no hostile intent." Vextal's mandibles clicked again, but this time in amusement. The sheer audacity of it. Just passing through. As if the Ember Sector was some kind of public highway. His crew exchanged glances, a few of them making the Crethean equivalent of nervous laughter. "Human vessel," Vextal transmitted back, making sure his voice carried the weight of authority. "You are in Crethean-controlled space. Turn back immediately or you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." There was barely a pause before the response came. "Negative, Commander. We're continuing through. I'd appreciate it if you'd respect our right to free navigation." The bridge fell silent. Even the usual hum of the ship's system seemed to quiet down. Vextal stared at the communications panel like it had just insulted his entire family line. "Did she just?" His tactical officer started but couldn't finish the sentence. "She refused," Vextal said slowly, his voice barely containing his disbelief. "A single human ship just refused a direct order from a Crethean battle group." His second-in-command, a veteran named Kroth, leaned forward. "Perhaps they don't understand the situation, Commander. They're new to galactic politics. Maybe they think we're bluffing." Vextal considered this. It was possible. Humans had a reputation for being stubborn and sometimes dangerously naive about how things worked out here. They still operated under the illusion that everyone played fair, that rules mattered, that being right somehow protected you. "Pull up their ship's specifications," Vextal ordered. The tactical display shifted, showing what little information they had on human vessels. The database was sparse. Humans were new enough that most powers hadn't bothered to gather detailed intelligence on their military capabilities. Why would they? Everyone assumed humans were decades, maybe centuries away from being a real threat. The Indomitable registered as a medium-sized vessel, probably a frigate or light cruiser equivalent. Its reactor output seemed standard for a ship of that class. Weapons signatures were unclear, but nothing in the readings suggested anything unusual. It was just a ship. A lone, unremarkable ship. "How many vessels do we have in the immediate area?" Vextal asked. 12, sir, counting our command ship," Kroth reported. "We can have 8 in position within minutes. 8 warships against 1. It was almost insulting to even call it a battle. Vextal felt a twinge of something he couldn't quite identify. Not quite guilt, but close. This was going to be a slaughter. These humans clearly had no idea what they were flying into. But orders were orders, and more importantly, reputation was everything. If word got out that a single human ship had defied the Crethean Dominion and gotten away with it, others would try the same. Weakness invited aggression. That was the first rule of survival in this part of the galaxy. "Assemble a task force," Vextal commanded. 8 ships. Standard attack formation. We'll intercept them at point 74. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, and within moments, 8 Crethean warships were breaking formation and moving toward the human vessel. On the tactical display, Vextal watched the Indomitable's position. It hadn't moved. It wasn't running. It wasn't trying to hide behind some asteroid field or jump away to safety. It was just sitting there, waiting. Interesting, Croth muttered beside him. What is? They're not reacting like prey, Commander. They're not running. Vextal studied the display again. Croth was right. Every instinct should be telling that human captain to run. She was outnumbered, outgunned, in hostile territory with no backup for light years in any direction. Any sane commander would retreat, regroup, and come back with support. But Captain Emily Grant wasn't retreating. As his task force closed in on the human ship, Vextal felt that strange feeling again. Not quite worry, but something close to it. He pushed it aside. 8 ships against 1. The mathematics were simple. All ships, prepare to fire on my command, he ordered. Let's teach these newcomers how things work out here. The 8 Crethean warships moved into position with the confidence of predators surrounding wounded prey. Vextal watched from his command chair as his vessels formed the Talon formation, a battle pattern the Dominion had perfected over centuries of warfare. It had never failed. 3 ships would pin the enemy from the front while 2 flanked from each side, and 1 hung back as a hammer to strike at the perfect moment. Formation complete, Commander, Croth reported. All weapons charged and ready. Vextal studied the human ship on his display. It still hadn't moved. Still just sitting there in space like a rock. Maybe Captain Grant was frozen with fear. Maybe she was desperately trying to figure out how to escape. Either way, it was too late now. Fire a warning shot across their bow, Vextal ordered. Maximum yield. I want them to see what's coming. The lead cruiser, the Relentless Claw, unleashed a plasma lance from its main cannon. The weapon was designed to crack open battle stations and turn asteroids into dust. Even a near miss would overload most shield systems and send any smart captain running for their lives. The brilliant blue-white beam cut through the darkness of space and struck the Indomitable's shields head-on. Nothing happened. Vextal leaned forward in his chair. Tactical, did we hit them? Direct hit, sir. Maximum yield confirmed. His tactical officer's voice carried a note of confusion. But their shields, they didn't even flicker. Energy readings are stable. It's like they absorbed it completely. That's impossible, Croth said. A shield that efficient would require a reactor 3 times that size. Before Vextal could respond, the human ship moved. It didn't accelerate the way normal ships did, with a gradual buildup of speed. 1 second it was motionless, and the next it was already moving at speeds that made his sensors struggle to track it. The Indomitable shot forward, then banked hard to the left in a turn that should have torn the ship apart from the G-forces alone. Where did it go? Vextal shouted. I'm trying to track it, sir, but... The tactical officer's words cut off as the Indomitable appeared on the display again, now somehow between 2 of his cruisers. How did it get there so fast? The human ship fired. The weapons weren't like anything Vextal had seen before. No plasma lances, no missile salvos, no particle beams. Instead, thin lines of brilliant white energy lanced out with surgical precision. The first shot hit the Relentless Claw's engine block, and the entire rear section of the cruiser just stopped working. Clean cut. No explosion, no fireball. Just dead metal floating in space. The second shot took out the weapons array on the Crimson Fawn. The third overloaded the shield generator on the Night Piercer, causing a cascade failure that left the ship defenseless. All in under 10 seconds. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Vextal screamed into the comm, return fire. Return fire. His fleet tried. They really did. Plasma lances cut through space, missiles screamed from their launch tubes, energy weapons painted the darkness with deadly light. But the human ship moved like it was dancing, weaving between his ships with impossible grace. Every time his sensors managed to get a lock, the Indomitable was already somewhere else. And it kept firing. The 4th ship, the Steel Render, took a hit that severed its command deck from the rest of the vessel. The crew would be fine in their emergency pods, but the ship was done. The 5th lost all power when something the humans fired struck its main reactor and somehow shut it down without causing it to explode. Vextal had been in battles before. He'd seen fleets clash, watched ships die, witnessed tactical brilliance and desperate last stands. But this wasn't a battle. This was target practice, and his ships were the targets. Commander, we've lost 4 ships. Crotha's voice was shaking. The remaining 3 are requesting permission to break formation and retreat. Negative. Hold position. We just need to. Vextal's words died in his throat. The tactical display showed the Indomitable's position updating, and his blood went cold. The human ship was behind him. Behind his flagship. It had somehow circled around his entire fleet and positioned itself perfectly to strike at his command vessel. When had it even moved? He blinked and it had crossed thousands of kilometers. The comm crackled to life and Captain Grant's voice came through. She still sounded calm, like this was just another day at the office. Like she hadn't just torn apart 4 warships in less than 5 minutes. Commander Vextal, I'm going to give you a chance here. Withdraw your forces. Turn around and leave. I won't ask twice. Vextal's mandibles trembled. Every instinct he had screamed at him to fight, to restore his honor, to show this human that the Crethean Dominion didn't back down. But another, older instinct was louder. The survival instinct. The one that had kept him alive through 20 cycles of service. He looked at the tactical display. 4 ships disabled. 3 more barely holding together. His own flagship sitting in the crosshairs of a vessel that had just demonstrated it could kill them all without breaking a sweat. Pride wasn't worth dying for. All ships, Vextal said, the words tasting like poison. Retreat. Maximum speed. Get us out of here. The remaining Crethean vessels turned and burned hard, their engines glowing as they pushed their reactors to the limit. No formation, no coordination, just pure panic-driven flight. Behind them, the Indomitable didn't pursue. He just sat there watching them run. As his ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Vextal opened a direct channel to Dominion High Command. His report was short and terrifying. We engaged a single human vessel with 8 warships. 4 are disabled. The rest are fleeing. Their technology is beyond anything we've encountered. We need to know what we're dealing with because everything we thought we knew about humans is wrong. This changes everything. Within hours of the engagement, encrypted data packets were flying across the galactic network. Battle logs, sensor recordings, tactical analysis reports. Everyone wanted to see what had happened in the Ember sector. The footage had been captured by automated monitoring stations that both the VRNN Collective and the Velos Empire maintained throughout the contested zone. Ambassador Thelcross sat in her private office aboard the VRNN diplomatic station, watching the battle recording for the 5th time. Her blue skin, normally a vibrant azure, had faded to an almost pale white. She kept rewinding the same sequence, watching the human ship move in ways that shouldn't be possible. Play it again, she told her AI assistant. The holographic display showed the Indomitable accelerating from a dead stop to combat speeds in less than 2 seconds. Then it banked hard, pulling a turn that would have crushed any crew under impossible G-forces. Yet the ship moved like it weighed nothing. Her military advisor, General Korth, stood beside her desk. He was a grizzled veteran who had seen 40 campaigns across 3 different wars. His scarred face rarely showed emotion anymore, but right now he looked genuinely disturbed. I've watched this 20 times, Korth said quietly, and it still doesn't make sense. Explain it to me, Thelcross demanded. Use small words. Pretend I'm a child. Korth gestured at the hologram. Their reactor signatures are all wrong. A ship that size based on our scans should have a standard fusion core, maybe 2. That kind of power plant can only generate so much energy. It's basic physics. But this ship is putting out energy readings that suggest a reactor 3 or 4 times that size. Where is all that power coming from? Could they have discovered a new power source? Maybe. Probably. I don't know. Korth ran a hand over his face. And that's not even the worst part. Look at their acceleration rates. They break every known principle of inertia. When that ship moves, it doesn't gradually build up speed like every other vessel in the galaxy. It just goes. Instantly. Like someone flipped a switch. What about the weapons? Those are the most frightening part, Korth admitted. Watch here. He pointed at the display as the Indomitable fired. See how precise those shots are? They're not trying to destroy those Crethean ships. They're disabling them. Targeting specific systems with accuracy that suggests either incredible AI targeting or impossibly skilled gunners. Maybe both. Thelcross watched the thin white beams slice through Crethean armor like it was paper. Could we defend against weapons like that? I honestly don't know. Our best shields might hold. Might. But if humans have this kind of technology on what appears to be a standard frigate. He trailed off, letting the implications hang in the air. What are you saying, General? I'm saying we need to reassess everything we thought we knew about humans. They're not the primitive newcomers we assumed. They've been holding back. Across the station, similar conversations were happening in a dozen different languages. The galactic intelligence community was in chaos. Everyone was scrambling to understand what they'd just witnessed. Meanwhile, the Indomitable was still in the Ember sector, continuing its journey. On the ship's bridge, Captain Emily Grant sat in her command chair, reviewing their next waypoint. The encounter with the Creathians had delayed them by almost an hour. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal," her communications officer called out. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up from her console. "It's coming from bearing 273. Automated SOS beacon. Civilian transport." Emily felt her jaw tighten. "Can you identify the vessel?" "Working on it." "Got it. It's a Haley transport, the Peaceful Dawn. They're broadcasting a priority emergency code. Multiple hostile vessels in the area." The Haley were one of the few truly peaceful species in the galaxy. They didn't have a military, didn't involve themselves in politics, just wanted to trade and live quietly, which made them perfect targets for raiders and pirates. Her first officer, Lieutenant Derek Hayes, leaned over from his station. "Captain, our mission parameters have us on a tight schedule. Command wants us at the rendezvous point within 18 hours. Emily looked at him. Derek was a good officer, smart and by the book. But sometimes the book needed to be thrown out the airlock. "How far to the distress signal?" 7 minutes at maximum speed. "Helm, set intercept course," Emily ordered. "Maximum speed." Derek raised an eyebrow. "Captain. Our parameters are flexible, Lieutenant," Emily cut him off. Her voice was firm but not harsh. "We don't leave civilians to die. That's not who we are. That's never been who we are." Derek nodded slowly. "Understood, Captain. Should I alert the crew to battle stations?" "Do it. And tell weapons to ready all systems. If there are raiders attacking that transport, they're about to have a very bad day." The Indomitable's engines flared to life, and the ship accelerated toward the distress signal. As they approached, their sensors picked up 6 vessels surrounding a single transport. The raiders were a mixed group, different species working together. Pirates didn't care about galactic politics or territorial disputes. They just wanted easy prey. The transport's hull was already breached in 3 places. Atmosphere was venting into space. The raiders were taking their time, carving the ship apart piece by piece. Emily felt cold anger settle in her chest. This was what humans hated most. Bullies. Predators targeting the defenseless. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel right between the raiders and their victim. Every weapon system on the human ship lit up, target locks painting each pirate vessel. Emily opened a channel. Her voice was calm, professional, but carried an edge of steel that made her crew sit up straighter. "This is Captain Emily Grant of the UHCN Indomitable. Release that transport and leave this sector. This is your only warning." There was a moment of silence. Then laughter came through the calm, multiple voices, different species, all finding the same thing hilarious. The lead raider, a cross named Crix with a reputation for brutality, responded. "One human ship. Please. We've got 6 vessels here and we're not scared of your fancy flying. You'll make a nice addition to our collection." Emily's expression didn't change. She simply looked at her weapons officer and said 2 words. "Wrong answer." What nobody on the Indomitable knew was that they had an audience. A very large audience. After the incident with the Creathian fleet, every major power in the galaxy had scrambled to deploy observation drones to the Ember sector. These weren't regular surveillance devices. They were military-grade stealth drones, equipped with the best sensors money could buy, designed to watch and record without being detected. The VRYNN Collective had 3 drones in position. The Velos Empire had 4. Even smaller powers like the Hellion Coalition and the Dravix Union had managed to slip 1 or 2 into the area. Everyone wanted to see what this human ship could really do. In a secure observation room on the VRYNN flagship Eternal Vigilance, Ambassador Thelcra and General Korth watched their live feed alongside a dozen other military officers. They had front-row seats to what was about to happen. "Recording is active," one of the technicians confirmed. "All sensor arrays are functioning at maximum capacity." "Good," Thelcra said softly. "Let's see what humans are really made of." The 6 raider ships moved to engage the Indomitable with the overconfidence of bullies who had never been challenged. They spread out, trying to surround the human vessel from multiple angles. It was a standard pirate tactic, overwhelming the target from all sides. Then the human ship opened fire. But it wasn't like the Creathian engagement. This time the Indomitable was protecting something. The Haley transport sat behind it, damaged and helpless. The raiders knew this and tried to use it to their advantage, firing shots that would force the human ship to choose between defending itself or protecting the civilian vessel. They never got the choice. Small ports opened along the Indomitable's hull, and suddenly the space around the Haley transport lit up like a fireworks display. Thousands of tiny intercept missiles launched in a coordinated stream, creating an impenetrable shield of defensive fire. Every shot the raiders fired at the transport was met by 3 or 4 counter-missiles that detonated the incoming fire harmlessly in space. Impossible, one of the VRWN officers whispered. That kind of point defense network would require processing power beyond anything we have. But the Indomitable wasn't done showing off. Hatches opened on its dorsal hull, and a dozen compact drones shot out. They weren't like the bulky, slow military drones that most species used. These were small, fast, and moved with an intelligence that suggested advanced AI or remote pilots with inhuman reflexes. The drones engaged the raider fighters that had launched from the larger pirate vessels. What followed was a masterclass in combat flying. The human drones moved in perfect coordination, covering each other, setting up crossfire opportunities, and executing maneuvers that would have killed any organic pilot from the G-forces alone. Within 2 minutes, every raider fighter was either destroyed or retreating. The Indomitable's main weapons came online next, and this is when the observers realized something terrifying. The weapons weren't fixed. They were adaptive. The first shot was a precision beam that severed a raider cruiser's engine block. The second was some kind of explosive round that detonated against another ship's shields, overwhelming them in a cascade of energy. The third was an electromagnetic pulse that shut down a raider corvette's entire electrical system. One ship, 3 different weapon types, all fired within seconds of each other. They're cycling through weapon modes, General Korth breathed. Their weapons can switch configurations on the fly. Do you understand what that means? Thelcraw did. It meant that human weapons could adapt to any defensive system, could counter any strategy, could overcome any protection. There was no defense that would work twice. The battle lasted 8 minutes from start to finish. When it was over, 4 raider ships were disabled and drifting. 2 had managed to jump away, damaged but mobile, likely never to return to this sector again. The Haley Transport's communication system crackled to life. Unknown vessel, this is the Haley Transport Peaceful Dawn. The voice was trembling, barely holding together. You saved us. Our people were dying. How can we ever repay you? Captain Emily Grant's response was immediate and warm. No thanks necessary. Get your people to safety. We'll make sure no one follows you. Do you need medical assistance? We have wounded, but our medical systems are still functional. Thank you. Thank you so much. Safe travels, Emily said. Helm, maintain position until they're clear. The Haley Transport's engines flickered to life, and it limped away toward the nearest safe port. The Indomitable stayed exactly where it was, weapons still active, making sure no one even thought about pursuing. On the VRWN flagship, the room was dead silent. Then Emily's communications officer spoke up. Captain, priority transmission from Earth Command. It's flagged as urgent. Emily pulled up the message on her command chair's display. As she read it, her expression hardened. Her jaw set in a way that her crew had learned to recognize. Someone had made her angry. She stood up from her chair. All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. All personnel to combat readiness. Her first officer, Derek Hayes, moved quickly to her side. Captain, what's happening? The Creathian Dominion has declared war on humanity, Emily said, her voice carrying across the bridge. They're calling our engagement an unprovoked attack. They're sending their Grand Armada to Earth. Derek felt his stomach drop. The Grand Armada was legendary. 300 warships, the largest military force the Dominion had ever assembled. How many ships is Earth sending to intercept? Emily looked at him, and there was something in her eyes. Not fear. Not worry. Something else. Determination maybe. Or certainty. 12 ships. The bridge went silent. Someone dropped a data pad. The sound echoed in the stillness. 12. Lieutenant Amy Foster repeated. Against 300? Those are our orders, Emily confirmed. She looked around at her crew, seeing the doubt on some faces, the fear on others. I know what you're thinking. The math doesn't work. We're outnumbered 25-1. She paused, letting that sink in. But I've seen what this ship can do. You've all seen it. And we're not alone. 11 other ships just like ours are heading to the same fight. So yes, it's 12 against 300. And I'll take those odds any day. Derek looked at his captain and felt his doubt fade. She was right. He just watched one human ship dismantle 6 raiders like it was target practice. Across the galaxy, in a dozen different observation rooms, military analysts were coming to the same horrifying conclusion. If this was what a standard human frigate could do, what would their capital ships be capable of? The recordings were already being sent to every major power. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity. Never assume the new kids don't know how to fight. The Battle of Proxima Gate would be studied in military academies for generations to come. Not because it was close. Not because it was heroic. But because it fundamentally changed how every species in the galaxy thought about warfare. 12 human ships faced 300 Crethean warships in open space near Earth's outer defenses. Every major power had observation drones positioned to watch. Some were hoping to see humanity get a taste of humility. Others were genuinely curious to see if the humans could pull off another miracle. Most expected to witness a massacre. They got their massacre. Just not the one they expected. The Crethean Grand Armada arrived in overwhelming force, their ships arranged in a battle formation that had won dozens of campaigns. Commander Vextal, still burning with shame from his earlier defeat, had been given command of the vanguard. He was determined to restore his honor and show the galaxy that the first encounter had been a fluke. The human fleet sat perfectly still, arranged in a loose formation that made no tactical sense to anyone watching. They didn't even have their weapons charged yet. Vextal opened a channel to the humans, broadcasting on all frequencies so everyone could hear. Human vessels, surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we'll make examples of your worlds. The response came from the lead human ship, the Thermopylae. Captain Brian Miller's voice was calm, almost bored. Commander Vextal. You should have stayed home. Last chance to turn around. Vextal cut the channel and ordered the attack. What happened next lasted 6 hours and 17 minutes, but the outcome was decided in the first 60 seconds. The human ships moved as one. Not in formation like other fleets, but like they were all controlled by a single mind. When one ship advanced, another provided covering fire. When one needed to recharge shields, 2 others moved to protect it. They flowed around each other like water, never colliding, never hesitating, always in perfect position. The Cretheans had numbers. The humans had coordination that bordered on telepathy. The first wave of Crethean ships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma lances, missile salvos, particle beams, graviton torpedoes. Enough firepower to level a moon. The human ship's shields absorbed it all, then something remarkable happened. The shields didn't just hold. They adapted. Shots that should have weakened them seemed to make them stronger. Then the humans returned fire. Their weapons were different now. The observers noticed immediately. These weren't the precision tools they'd used against the raiders. These were weapons of war. Main cannons that fired rounds that seemed to appear in multiple places at once. Missiles that split into dozens of smaller warheads mid-flight. Energy beams that didn't just punch through shields but somehow turned them against their own ships. Within the first 10 minutes, 20 Crethean vessels were disabled. Within 20 minutes, 50 were gone. Vextal, watching his fleet dissolve around him, called for the World Breaker. The Crethean super dreadnought was the pride of the Dominion. It was massive, larger than some moons, carrying enough firepower to sterilize planets. Its shields could withstand sustained bombardment from entire fleets. It had never been damaged in combat. Never even been seriously threatened. It jumped into the battle zone with a flash of displaced space-time, and for a moment even the human ships seemed to pause. The World Breaker was simply that big. That intimidating. Captain Brian Miller looked at the tactical display showing the massive vessel. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Tom Bradley, glanced at him nervously. "Sir, that thing outmasses our entire fleet combined." "Yep," Brian said. "Good thing mass doesn't matter when you're moving fast enough. Helm, bring us about. Weapons, load round 7. 7, sir?" Tom's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "Very sure." "Target locked." "Yes, sir." "Target locked. Fire." The Thermopylae's main cannon fired a single round. Not energy. Not a missile. A solid projectile made of dense metal, accelerated by a system that bent physics in ways that would take scientists decades to fully understand. The round left the barrel at a significant fraction of the speed of light. At those speeds, mass doesn't matter. Energy matters. And the Thermopylae had just delivered more kinetic energy than a supernova. The projectile hit the World Breaker dead center. For a fraction of a second, nothing seemed to happen. Then the super dreadnought simply came apart. Not exploded. Not broke up. It disintegrated, turned into expanding plasma and debris, the impact releasing so much energy that ships 1,000 kilometers away had their shields overloaded just from the radiation. The entire Crethean fleet stopped fighting. Just stopped. Crews stared in horror at where their most powerful ship had been seconds before. Brian opened a channel. "Last chance, Commander. Leave now or share that ship's fate. The battle ended quickly after that. Some Crethean ships kept fighting either out of loyalty or stupidity. They were systematically disabled. Others tried to run and were allowed to leave. Most just surrendered, cutting their engines and waiting to be told what to do. The final count was brutal. 127 Crethean ships destroyed. 168 damaged beyond repair. Only 5 escaped with minor damage. Human casualties? 0. Not a single death. 3 ships had minor hull scoring from near misses. That was it. Within hours, every government in the galaxy received the battle recordings. Within days, emergency sessions were being called. The VRNN Collective was first to act, proposing an immediate non-aggression pact with humanity. Others followed so fast it became almost comical. Admiral James Peterson, commander of Earth's military forces, was invited to address the Galactic Council. He stood before beings who had dismissed humanity as primitive children just weeks ago. "We don't seek to dominate anyone," James said simply. "We never have. We build our ships to stand alone because we learned a long time ago that sometimes help doesn't come. Every human vessel is designed to protect, to endure, to fight if it has to. We hoped we'd never need to prove that. But you forced our hand." Ambassador Thelcraw, her blue skin now returned to its normal color, asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Why reveal this power only now? Why let us think you were weak?" James smiled. "We didn't hide anything. You just never asked. You saw new ships and assumed they were primitive. You saw young crews and assumed they were inexperienced. You made assumptions based on how long we've been out here, not on who we are. That was your mistake, not our deception." Within a week, humanity received formal invitations to join the Galactic Security Council, the Trade Federation, and half a dozen other important organizations. The message was clear everywhere. The age of underestimating humanity was over. On the Indomitable, still in the Ember sector, Captain Emily Grant stood looking at the stars. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, approached with a data pad. "Captain, we're being flooded with communications. Trade agreements, defense pacts, cultural exchange programs. Everyone wants to talk to us now."